carry a sizable amount of payload and drop it there. So these are some very critical challenges, and we are working on some of them, trying to develop higher payload capacity drones with higher endurance, that is flight time and higher range. So that's in a nutshell, I mean, what is going around. Yeah. So over to you, Cindy.
Okay. So it's essentially the size limitations and the weight limitations that are going to drive some of these applications.
Right.
I just wanted to quickly discuss with you if you could just give specific examples of some startup activity, specific things that are going on, including the one that you are associated with. I understand that you are associated with a startup called Endure Air. Right. Could you talk about it a little?
Sure. So in Endure Air, we are actually trying to push again these higher payload capacity drones. So we already have solution which can lift 5 kilogram payload and transport it to around 40 to 60 kilometer range. But now, I mean, we are done with the product development for at least one product, and second product is also close to getting completed. So now we are actually trying to find users who would actually be interested in doing this. We are participating in this Medicine from My Sky project. So we are also like drone manufacturer and designer. So we want to tie up with people who are more focused towards building applications and solutions. People who would want to give services rather. Yeah. So we are tying up with such people, supplying them our drones, training them in our drones so that they can use it, operate it, and see its effectiveness, and also give us feedback so that we can fix out any small glitches which may be left because it's a new product. So that's what we are doing. But then, I mean, our goal is quickly to move towards a 20 kilogram payload solution, because there is a huge demand for that. I mean, from all sectors actually, including defense side as well as the civilian side.
Okay, that's exciting. So people in the audience, this would be a great idea for you to connect and ask questions to Dr. Abhishek. You know, we will, you know, my sense is that he'll be able to help you after the webinar also, because, you know, in IIT Kanpur, there is an ecosystem where people are trying to do a lot of good stuff in the space of drone, as well as there are many people who could be connected to you from the angel investor community, from the other entrepreneurs. And, you know, essentially it's about networking among the people who are trying to participate in this and growing this community further. So with that, thanks a lot, Dr. Abhishek, very insightful. And now let me go to another very exciting discussion, Mr. Nikhil Upadhyay. And Mr. Nikhil Upadhyay, I understand that you are co-founder and CEO at CD Space. And there's a lot of good stuff that you're doing, you know, in the robotics space, and you're developing next generation of drone for logistics and commercial applications. And I understand that this is one big application chunk in itself. And it would be very great for audience to know that this is the first company in India to use drones to deliver healthcare supplies to remote areas. Now you can understand how hard-hitting that can be. And guys, I'm just marveled at how he did that, because, you know, in Uttarakhand, his drones were used for carrying blood samples from a village, and they ended up delivering it like 40 kilometers away in a district hospital. So that kind of stuff is being done by Mr. Nikhil Upadhyay's organization. And let me tell you about a little bit about his academic background also. He's, you know, he did his BTech as well as Masters in the field of civil engineering from IIT Kanpur itself, and graduated out in 2013. And here we are talking to him. So looks like you are another unicorn in making. So welcome, Nikhil. I have this question for you where you could possibly inspire us by telling us that, you know, what's your story? What's your journey so far in the drone industry? Just let us know all about that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me here as a member of this STEAM panel. So basically, my journey started from IIT Kanpur itself. So I joined IIT Kanpur in 2008. So I was very much interested in aerospace engineering since very beginning, but unfortunately, because of my AIR, I couldn't get the aerospace engineering. Next best thing which I could have got was civil engineering. So I basically entered. But yeah, aerospace was always something close to my heart. And then basically what I found was that there was an aero modeling club as a part of student Gymkhana. So which was something very exciting thing for me, which was close to my heart as well. And we also, found very like-minded people who were very passionate about making things fly. So we kind of had a very good group there where, we just as a hobby, we used to go to airstrip and we used to make these aero models and fly them. So that is when it started. So when I was about to graduate, I got campus placement and everything, but we were like 3 people together. So we kind of thought about this, that, drones can be, this is something which is upcoming. Drones is very similar to what internet was in 90s, or how computers were in 80s. So this is a very good opportunity to enter into this segment and see I mean, what kind of contribution we can make in this direction. And since all of us were extremely passionate people, we managed to convince our parents that okay, we are not going to join the jobs and we are going to start a company. And luckily, IIT Kanpur has a very good ecosystem. Basically, IITK provided us a platform in terms of aero modeling club. And just after graduation, we also got another platform called SIIC, which is a SIDBI Innovation and Incubation Center. So it was kind of, a safe place for us to try it out, whether our startup could work or not. So the incubation center provided us office space, and we basically planned to be at IIT Kanpur because we had to use Airstrip for our testings and all. So that is where we started our development. So it was basically my first company. So CD Space is my second company. So my first company is RO Unmanned Systems. So it is basically, so with RO Unmanned System, we basically entered into drones as a service segment, where our drones are being used for aerial mapping application in mines, railway projects, road projects, etc. So I exited RO Unmanned Systems in 2018. And after that, I started CD Space with another set of like-minded and passionate people, again from Aero Modeling Club IIT Kanpur, who were majorly focused on building drones for logistics application. So these drones are something which are very different from the conventional drone. The one which you can see in my background, this is a very conventional drone, right? So the drone which we are building for logistics application, they are fixed wing VTOL drones, which can take off and land vertically. And once it starts flight, it basically flies like a commercial airliner. So that provides our drone extra capability to cover longer distances at the same time, carrying more and more payload. So the current drone portfolio which we have, it can carry up to 2 to 5 kg of payload, and it can travel up to 100 kilometers of a distance. So this was something unique when we started doing this back in 2018. And so we completed our initial test trials at IIT Kanpur. Then we got an opportunity in Uttarakhand where we could demonstrate the technology. And we did a pilot project where our drone flew 40 kilometers delivering blood samples from a remote place. And it was a little challenging terrain because in IIT Kanpur, basically we have flat lands, and the testing which was done was only at IIT Kanpur airstrip area. But here the location was quite hilly. So we had to navigate through hills. So it was very challenging problem statement. And basically our drone was capable to complete that. But after that, when we basically tried to commercialize it, we basically got a lot of traction because of the news and everything. But in order for commercialization, we couldn't get the permissions required, because drone was restricted thing, and if you want to commercialize, the way to get the permission was not clear during that time. And in fact, 2 days ago only, things have got better clarity. So I'm quite hopeful, the technology which we were developing and where our hearts were for drones as a logistics, hopefully the commercial opportunity of drones for logistics will be a reality very soon. So as a team, currently we are like 15 people. We are now located in Bangalore, and all of us are very passionate about drones. At the same time, the applications of drones as well. So healthcare is something which is, very close application, which we would want to target as a company. Because when we started exploring it as a market, we had a technology now where to sell it, where we can have the maximum impact of the technology. And the healthcare was something which will have a maximum impact. because even today, India, we know it's a very diverse land. So there are many places within India itself, where the road connectivity is poor, or even if there is a road connectivity, the healthcare access is poor. So even within India, there is a tremendous potential for drones, particularly for healthcare application. So this is what we have found out. So with the new rules for drones, which have come up just 2 days ago, we are very much hopeful that drones are going to make a very deep impact in the future of India from now onwards. So it will not only emerge as a market, which is significantly contributing to the economy, but it will also be making impact in terms of its use cases as well. So for example, when we were not able to get permissions for these logistics based deliveries, it is usually known as BVLOS flight, which is beyond visual line of sight flight. At that time, as a company, we had to pivot to some other applications, where the government was using drones and where we could actually go and sell the drones. For example, police is one of the applications, surveillance is one of the application. The second is that our drones are also being used as a part of a Swamitva project. So in Swamitva project, you may have heard that over 6 million Indian villages are being mapped. So the data is basically the mapping data of the villages is being digitized, and drones are being used for this purpose. So we are also one of the second company. So first company is Idea Force, second company is ours, which got qualified as per the norms of Survey of India in terms of the data accuracy as well as the flight performance. So our drones are currently being used there as well. And with the new rules, so let's see how soon can we deliver pizzas to our homes.
I would love to have it that way. I think the time is not far away, but that leads me to another question that I'm really curious to know from you, that how soon really we will have drones, delivering shipments, because I think, when that happens, that's when it would be in the public eye, and that would require the production of drones at that level. So what are your views on that, Nikhil?
Yes. Basically logistics is a complex domain, and I'm 200% sure that, drones are going to flood this domain. Eventually drones are going to be used for logistics, for any kind of logistics. But as I said, logistics is a complex thing. I believe that, the first application of drones as a logistics is going to be for remote and rural area, where there is a less road based connectivity. So that is where the first application will start with. And subsequently, drones will come up to the traditional logistics as well. But the mid-mile range is where I believe is going to be the first adaptive industry, which will adopt drones for their application. So as Dr. Abhishek has also said, the 20 kg weight class, 20 to 50 kg weight class of drones delivering mid-miles from city to city is something will be a quicker reality than, drones delivering pizza to your home, because that is a last mile or first mile delivery. And that will be probably the last thing, because although I believe, technology is although ready, but the ecosystem is not ready so far. So for having pizza at our doorstep, there are a lot of stakeholders in between. So just the tech is not going to solve the problem, but rather government has to be involved, the end user has to be involved, and there are so many things which need to happen before pizza gets delivered. But yes, I can definitely see that, mid-mile city to city heavy cargo delivery will soon be a reality. And drones for healthcare, it's already going on in the other parts of the world. For example, in Africa, many countries are very actively adopting this technology. So India will soon start doing this as well.
So have you got any view on drone pilot as a viable carrier option? Because I keep hearing about that in some. I mean, it's not so visible in the press, regular press, but I keep hearing about it a lot, that some kids are trying to do that. They're learning it. Some of them are very good at it. So how viable is this drone pilot as a carrier? Is that a carrier?
So for next 15 years, I believe this is going to be a very viable and very attractive option. But more than, I mean, after 15 years, I'm 100% sure everything is going to be autonomous.
Okay. Thanks a lot for sharing your views.
Thank you.
We'll come back to you. There are many questions which are pouring in the in the chat section over there, and Sneha is looking at that. So we'll definitely come back to you on those.
Sure.
Now, let me request Colonel Inderjit to help us a little and develop this topic a little more. For everybody, let me tell you that Colonel Inderjit Singh is Chief Cybersecurity Officer at Vara Technologies, and his understanding of military intelligence and defense applications is really remarkable because the kind of roles he has gone through. His charter in his current company is to build cyber security business unit for the group. But he has been developing and working on many disruptive technologies, especially in the cybersecurity space for securing IT network or smart cities or for critical information infrastructure. And guys, he has got a very credible background. He has served in Indian Armed Forces, and he is an alumnus of Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and also of Symbiosis Institute of Management, Pune. And this is not all about him, because he has been a part of very prestigious appointments. While he was in Indian Army, he has served on United Nations missions, and he's been to Democratic Republic of Congo. Very exciting things that we can talk to him about. So, well, let me welcome him. And Colonel Inderjit, my first question to you is that since you are an expert in defense, we would love to hear from you some defense applications of drones. If you could point to some, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samir, and thank you everyone for having me here, and a very humble introduction. I'm really, honored to hear that. And it's a pleasure to talk on UAVs. And just to give you my background of UAVs and drones, it's all started in 2007, where we started using the military UAVs. And that time it was only for the SAR, synthetic aperture radars. And, we used to get all the reconnaissance, the photographs, we used to analyze it. That was all real, right? Thereafter, I had my hands in totally into the electronic intelligence, the ELINT part of it. That's a non-com of the warfare, because if you're aware of the warfare, so there's something called the communication warfare, where you're talking what we talk on the mobile phones. Something is a non-com, and non-com is all about your radars, your non-com emitters. That's where the whole game is today, right? The non-com communication, the ELINT part. And that's where I got in, the searcher UAVs from Israel. So I was instrumental in getting those squadrons established, put it across, build up the squadrons, make them operational, make them functional, and we used to get really fantastic information about non-com information, and also the com. And this threat is real, and the drones are real, and UAV threats are real now. And just to put your perspective, while I talk of the UAV in defense, there's a threat which we saw Soleimani being shot down by the UAV. Armaco was, the oil fields were being shot by the UAV swarms. It happened. This in last year, 26 January, we had, this year, 26 January, we had the UAV, threat defender kind of thing, which was being put at Republic Day, 2018, right? Then similarly, everywhere we are having a kind of threats from the drone which come up. We try to protect ourselves. And there's the two methods of it. One is a straight, which is a combat drones or UAVs, something we need to counter them, right? So war is, or the military is all about countering and offensive part, defense and the offense, right? So when we are using them as a combat platform, we can have the missiles on the UAVs. We have really bombs on the UAVs. There are stealth UAVs which have come up, and the categories of UAVs or the drones which have come up are phenomenal. Just imagine they go up to the height of 40,000 feet, the speed of 900 kilometers an hour, with huge amount of payload and the huge lift capability. They have really grown over a period of time. Beyond the visual line of communication, the satellite pods were already there 2007-8, on the Heroes. I was associated with some of the projects of Indian DRDO like Rustam and Nishant trials, which I was part of that. Really phenomenal work has been happening all across the world, because it's a new form of the warfare, right? And like in India also, we are seeing the same kind of impetus for developing these technologies. So they can be used as a combat aerial vehicles. They can be used for reconnaissance, like they're over the air, they're unmanned reconnaissance aerial vehicles, which are providing battlefield intelligence. While you're in the, around the border, you really can pick it up, which aircraft has taken off, what is the troop movement, what is happening on the other side. And it gives you a real big advantage of the battlefield scenario. So there's something called a C4 ISR, that's a command, communication, control, and information, right? So that surveillance and reconnaissance. So that is the major key player these devices are playing now. These equipments are really working out. And to go further, while we talk about the UAVs, we are not talking about the swarm drones. And that's what we displayed on the Army Day parade this year, that there were all 75 drones, swarm drones, which were being displayed, where we can bring down any enemy, for that matter. Because that's the new battlefield. That's the way the wars are going to be fought, right? So they can provide the ground and the aerial, gunnery, and they can target the enemy aircraft or missiles. So, and what happened in the Azerbaijan and Armenian war also, the tanks which were there, were being shot down by the drones, and they failed all the tanks altogether. It's a new kind of warfare we are seeing now. Other, factors what we're seeing is your logistics, delivering the cargo in the battlefields itself, right? Targets for military training. You really don't require to have real fighting machines going up. You can have the simulated training going up. And while you were talking of the pilots, the military people, the Air Force, Army, and the Navy, who are all there and handling the UAVs. So we are all trained pilots for the last 15 to 16 years now. They're all trained. They're really good pilots who really fly the aircraft sitting in the control center, right? And then you have the anti-aircraft warfare. Your defense against a UAV itself, we're able to do it. So in fact, these UAVs, drones are giving a real tactical advantage when you need it the most, right? Whether it's an inhospitable terrain, you need to navigate through it, hostile environment, you can use these drones to collect the vital data, give you a reconnaissance. You can strike back on those, targets without the intervention of the people going on ground. So drones can work like that. And the swarm drones, which are come up is a cherry on the cake, where you really can get into the enemy wherever inside and kill them before they even realize that what is going to happen. So that's how the complete ecosystem has been built up, and military, of course, that encompasses Army, Navy, and the Air Force, are using UAVs to the best of it, right? As a technology. And we are seeing day in and day out, there's so much of development which is happening towards these technologies altogether.
Excellent. So that's very insightful. It seems that the defense application is way ahead of what we could have imagined, and
Right.
it's so real right now. So much of a part of everything that is now probably being planned, and we keep hearing a lot about it in the news anyways. All the war zones that we hear about, we definitely hear about the application of drones there. So kindly tell me, what is the regulatory situation? Because I think the civil usage is really under that, and what kind of regulatory situation is in India? And if there are any civil use cases that you are also a witness of.
So, as a regulatory, we were talking of, the 2021 regulation, which has just come in, of course. That's a big game changer, what we are seeing. And while we were discussing, actually, the regulation came in way back in 2018, 1st of December. That had a lot of breaches. And there are a lot of things which were stopping people to getting to the drones. And there was a noise from the industry. And everybody told that, it's going to be a show kind of going to stop the growth of India if you're not going along with the growth, drone story of growth, right? So that's why we saw things change in March, and then on 15th of July, there was a draft paper we came up, And thereafter, the game has changed altogether. Just 1.5 months, we are seeing, the new policies come up, and the policy is so positive. I think while we were discussing on 15th of July onwards, we had lots of, groups which we had a discussion of how this policy is going to be and what's a good part, what's a bad part, what it should change. We are seeing it now, which has come up in black and white. And it's the most liberalized policy which I have seen, till date for that particular purpose. So what it entails, some of the highlights, what you are important are that, there were a huge amount of forms which were supposed to be filled before you could get a license. That was around 25. Now they have been reduced to only 5. And the type of fees which were there, right? It was around 72 types of fees which you had to pay. And it's just come down to 4. Okay. Then other thing which is of interest to everyone, they have categorized all the, aerial platforms into different categories. Nano category, micro category, small category, medium, large, and up to 500 kgs. So a person who is having a nano and a micro drones, they really don't have any license, anything which is there, any pilot training. So that's the kind of things what are coming up. And then there was an embargo of flying the drones on the zones which are there, and especially, like it was told that on the around the airport, they said that nothing is going to fly around 45 kilometers. Now they brought it down to just 12 kilometers. And they divided everything into the green, yellow, and the red zone. Red zones are of course, the military or the aircraft airports which are there, but then yellow and green, you can fly without any problem. And also they have brought out the heights. There was a challenge of lots of e-commerce company coming up of the height, which it should follow. Okay, the average above the ground level. So they have now liberalized that height also. So the point which always come up that, are we going to have the the pizza coming to our house on a drone? So those e-commerce companies are going to be benefited by these kind of things which are going to be there. Then lots of approvals which are required, starting from your unique authorization number, prototype identity number, they have been all abolished. Okay. And interestingly, for people, there's going to be training. Okay, they're going to be drone training schools that are going to come up. There's going to be training schedule which is going to be there. There's going to be a certificate which is going to be issued after you go past that training purpose. So those are the kind of things which we are seeing. And then there are going to be a digital sky platform which is going to get created. That's very interesting. So in India, we're going to see the first time the digital sky platform. There are going to be layers on that, and in that you can see the drones real time which can get connected. So these are the things which we are seeing in the new drone policy, which is going to come up, and it's a very positive thing. It's part of the growth story of India. And by 2030, that's what is being told. By 2030, we're going to be really going, gung-ho on this particular policy. So really very good policy which has come up. I think all my panelists also are excited about it. When I read through, it was really very exciting to read through all those points.
Thank you very much. So that's very exciting. It seems that this drone space is all very exciting, not only for defense, but also for civil applications. And these new policies are going to help a lot. Now, let me bring in Ms. Sneha Rahar on board here, and she will help us with checking on the audience for any questions that are there. And by the way, Sneha is alumnus of IIT Kanpur 2016. And she is a very fast rising MNC executive. Earlier, she was with American Express. Now she is with Unicards. Over to you, Sneha.
Thank you so much, Sameer sir. I think Sunil sir has a few questions, so I will directly share the platform with him, so he can directly ask the question to the panelists we have.
Thanks, Sneha. Colonel Singh, I have one question because our topic today also is business opportunities. So if you would just give us a guesstimate figure, talking only of the defense, Indian defense applications, what is the size of the business opportunity for the drone community in, let's say, thousands of crores?
It's really huge. As per PwC, the defense figures are generally we don't open it up, but there are around $90 billion business which is there on cards as regards the drone market is concerned by 2025. Indian Army is highly investing into drones. We are going to be equipped by almost 6,000 drones or UAVs by 2030. That's a big figure. Equipping the Indian Defense Forces with the drone component. So huge investments are going to come in that way.
Thanks. And my other question is that what is the ecosystem that is required, especially in terms of IT? Because, I mean, you yourself are from IIT Kharagpur, and I would say that 70% of the IIT pass outs are in the IT sector in one category or another. So what would be the IT inputs that would be required for the drones? And that itself, I think, would be a huge sector for the IT industry.
Yeah, so, some things which are very important, the development in the fog computing or the edge computing, what we are looking in for. That has to be really fast paced. We are looking in for the machine learning part of it. The AI, of course, is really very important while we talk of it. Different kinds of AIs, algorithms which are going to get embedded for different applications. So it's not going to be a one size fit all model. Every application is going to be different. So that's how it's going to come up. Your 5G connectivity, of course, will play a major role while we are working on this, right? So if you look at it, the AI, big data, 5G, and we're also talking about the blockchain, right? So that technology also gets into, the drone space. And not last but the least is the cyber security, the drone security, right? While we have so liberalized, policy, the bottom line is we are building everything on trust. Okay. If everything or if only 1% of the drone policy which has been created goes against the policies being used by terrorists for their favor, then we're all gone, taking a back step on whatever we have done. So these all technologies which are there. So drone security plays a major role. 5G plays a major role, right? And when I go onto the drone security part of it, I'm actually getting onto the chip level things. When I go onto the IT part of it, your drone controlling APIs, which are there, the software which are going to be created, the digital sky. So those APIs can be manipulated. You can have the more cyber attacks which can happen, where you have a swarm, it's in the air, it's being hacked, and the guy is, put the thing on the own chaps back. So we have to be very careful on lots of things, put together when we talk of the drones as we go ahead.
Thank you. Dr. Abhishek, I've been taking on from what Colonel Singh said. What is IIT Kanpur working in terms of the countermeasures for drone attacks?
So we actually had been having a lot of discussion with the Ministry of Home Affairs about that. We also talked to Army Design Bureau, and indeed, actually, there is huge interest. So we have put together a team of faculty here at IIT Kanpur, and we had made certain proposals, which is right now with the Ministry of Home Affairs. So that is actually to set up a center of excellence on UAV and counter UAV technologies, because there is a major gap actually which is happening here. So industry is right now being hard pressed to deliver solutions which could meet immediate requirements of the common people for recreational purpose, for all kinds of purposes actually, surveillance, mapping, everything. But then there is and also defense actually. But on defense side, the requirement of technology is actually much higher level. And as such, in India, somehow we don't have this tradition or process of defense supporting research directly. You'd be amazed to know that, my PhD research, which was on helicopter theory, it was theory, not even a product development, was funded by US Army. So I'm here talking about, all my learning, all my education has actually been paid for by US Army. We don't see that happening here in India actually. It's very hard to get projects from Army Design Bureau. A lot of times they come and talk, but nothing comes out. The funding support that comes from conventional channels like Department of Science and Technologies, SERB, or whatever, I mean, DRDO, there also there is huge delay. If I get a great idea right now and I want to build that, I submit a proposal and I will get the funding. If I'm lucky, I'll get a funding in 1 year, 2 years actually. So this kind of thing, I mean, doesn't allow us to go beyond, I mean, the current status, right? We are never able to target DARPA kind of problems. If you see, I mean, why America is so ahead of us and we are so far behind, we actually are so afraid of failing. We always want to do a project actually where there is guarantee of success. We don't want to take up problems which actually are near impossible to solve. Internet is actually a product of one such DARPA challenge, where they said, I mean, you connect to computers and internet was born. So you can see this DARPA actually supports projects where the chance of success is less than 30%. If it is more than 30%, they will not fund it. They will not support it. So we don't actually are having that kind of appetite as of yet. Neither industry is having that, nor our academic community. But then, I mean, yes, recently, almost most major IITs, everybody has gotten this center of excellence, which is called TIH, Technology Innovation Hub. Like IIT Kanpur has got one on cyber security, some other institute has got on transportation. So these actually are, I mean, one such step in that direction. So the mandate given to all IITs and institutes is that don't just do current research, plan for the future. We have to start working for the technology for tomorrow now. And unfortunately, we have not been doing that. Even for counter UAV, that is the same situation. See, nobody thought about counter UAVs. Even though UAVs have been on the ecosphere, we are trying to ban UAVs, but we never thought how we are going to tackle UAVs. And as a result now, I mean, the problem is right upon us and we are again trying to do a knee-jerk reaction. So I'm just being critical of myself and everybody else. I mean, primarily because unless and until we ask these hard questions and try to solve them, we will not actually be true leaders. We will still be followers and trying to catch up with them in the West.
Yes, I can understand your frustration, Doctor, but I think that, Samir, I think that gives us a challenge, especially as IIT Kanpur alumni, to kind of create opportunities for funding of such research at IIT. And maybe we need to talk not just to the government of India, which they must be doing themselves, but also to some of the IT companies and other companies that can sponsor such research and bring out the prototypes and let this industry develop. So I think we will take this up as a challenge and try to see what we can do to, as the alumni of IIT Kanpur, to get some funding, because as has been pointed out by all the three panelists, it is the need of the hour, is the need of the country. So we have to step up and see that things happen fast. We can't wait and wait for years for this to be funded. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Sunil sir and Colonel Indrajit and Dr. Abhishek for your inputs. I have a few questions from the audience, so I'll quickly take each of them. And I'll request the panel to please pitch in for the respective questions. One such question is, do you believe that the development of ecosystem of drones is more important due to peer countries rather than our own needs, right? So kind of tech and surveillance used by neighbor and foreign countries require a much rapid set of regulations with policies. So request.
I'll take it on. So it's not about competing against the countries. It's the technology development, right? And we are to be part of the growth story. We are competing against ourselves, if I say that way. We have to be like what we are going in for the $5 trillion economy. That's the journey if we have to be part of that $5 trillion economy, right? And drone technology, AI, your blockchain, your cybersec, 5G, they all are part of that itself. So I don't want to diverge into different technologies, but then there's lots of impetus by the government right now to pump in, with the policies which really come up, and make things transparent, and we actually are going to grow, in terms of the revenue, in terms of the better growth of the country, right? So that's the way going to be.
I would quickly like to comment on the same question, if I may.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I absolutely agree. There is a lot of need to have an ecosystem, particularly in drone segment or for any deep tech segment per se. Because in India, as a hardware company, what we have found out is that we have a zero ecosystem when it comes to hardware. Absolutely zero. All the drone companies, and I will stress on this thing that all the drone companies, they are some way or the other depending on our neighboring countries to build their drone. Although we have some bits and bits of our own technology, mostly in terms of design and configuration, but the basic parts, for example, there isn't a single BLDC manufacturer in India. All the BLDC motors which are on to this drone, which is a very critical component for the propulsion of a drone, it is being outsourced. So there are this requirement of this ecosystem is must, because when it comes to defense, we have to have that sort of self-reliance. Although we have philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and that is where the things are gonna go in the future, hopefully. But still, when it comes to defense, some basic technologies we need to have them in house. So yes, ecosystem is a very, very important part, as well as the system from the government's end is also built in this way that the manufacturing, they take it for a granted that it is always being outsourced. For example, the policies, if we want to go into some restricted areas, for example, we thought of having some plans of having a counter drone technology to identify the drones. But when you want to make such an instrument, it comes into a restricted zone, and policy for having a basic components for such kind of technology are into restricted zone. And as a startup, you can't even import them, you can't even manufacture them, because there is no ecosystem within India itself. So it's a chicken and egg problem. So I think all the stakeholders need to think about this, and with this new drone policy, and the kind of freedom startups have been given to the startups, I'm really hopeful things will start changing from now on.
That makes a lot of sense, sir. Thank you so much for your inputs. One another interesting yet a basic question is, what kind of liability does a drone operator incur while operating a drone? So,
any damage it will cause, actually he has to be liable for that. But then there are already drone insurance companies in the market which allows you to. That's why for a operator who is actually operating it only for recreational purpose, he has to fly it in visual line of sight. He has to take all the necessary precautions. The rule says that you should never fly over inhabited areas, never fly over buildings or over people. If it's a small drone, flying over a building may still be okay, but flying over people where there are live people moving around is absolutely prohibited. So one has to be very careful about that. But then to cover for liabilities, because there may be accidents and it is going to happen. There is provision for drone insurance, which is coming up now. It's still in a nascent stage, but it's there.
So in fact, there are going to be violations of up to 1 lakh rupees. That's also there in the policy, right? If you're violating, like you cannot fly in the night. It's only during the daytime. So there are permissions which you have to, though it's liberal, but then there are set of rules which are already given in it.
Got it. Thank you so much. Do you think of drafting a set of required policies and regulations as industry and subject matter experts and send it to the DGCA for better development of ecosystem? So I think it's more around getting the process started, as Nikhil sir had already said, that we need to create that ecosystem, right? So I think one of the audience members wants to know that where exactly are we in that stage?
So I think the current regulation which has come out just 2 days back, there one such right step in that direction. So if you look at what actually came out on 12th of March, it was return of license Raj practically. The badly the scary license Raj kind of scenario, and everybody actually immediately got alarmed. The whole industry, FICCI, DFI, the Drone Federation of India, and the most alarming situation was that as IITs, we actually had to seek permission from DGCA to conduct research in the area of unmanned aerial vehicles. So that was, completely not acceptable to me. So I talked to all my colleagues in this domain. I got signatures from 25 faculty members across different IITs and IISc. Send that letter to PMO, send that letter to Secretary Mocha and Secretary DGCA or Additional Secretary DGCA rather, Sri Ambar Dubey. So, and we had a long chat with them and we tried to make them understand that, this is not how it should work. And everybody's effort finally brought us the gift of what we got 2 days back, which looks a much cleaner and fairly open and forward-looking kind of policy instead of something which was coming out from the dark ages practically, which came out in the March. So it's actually already happening. But ecosystem cannot be created by just policies alone. Once the market space starts to mature and businessmen see that there is actually a real demand, which they can solve by setting up industry for manufacturing of motors. Yes, there is one major challenge in motor side that we can never be able to compete with China, primarily because China is owner of the rare earth magnets, practically the whole deposit which is available globally. So even if you buy a motor from America, it still uses a Chinese magnet. Okay. So if you buy from Europe, from a European manufacturer, it's still going to use a Chinese magnet. So the ones which will be manufactured in India are also going to be using Chinese magnet. So now how do you offset that cost? Because Chinese are getting that magnet cheapest compared to Americans or Indians or whosoever. So this is another kind of challenge. But then, maybe in the coming future, we may come up with some new technology for motor where, you would not have to depend so much on those magnets alone. But that's what So the ecosystem, setting it up and making it go would definitely take time. But this new regulations are definitely a good step in that direction. It's definitely going to push the industry in a big way. So Nikhil,
I would like to add a point to this, as correctly said by Dr. Abhishek. So basically, allowing to commercialize a technology is a first step to anything. And I think that has happened just 2 days ago. So from now on, I think, once money starts coming in, then investors will also invest, then startups will also grow, and subsequently technology will also grow. So far, everything was, sort of a gray area. So that was a situation. Investors were not ready to invest. Startups were not able to grow. There was no business as such. So now, since there will be a business, there will be investments, and I think hopefully, next 5 to 10 years, we will see the difference basically.
One could say that government was waiting for our Lighthouse webinar to happen just to.
That's great.
It's a good segue, isn't it, guys? So.
Thank you so much, all the panelists. I think there are a few questions regarding some specifications of motors or the type of drones for recreational purpose. So I think the audience members can reach out to the panelists directly post this webinar, because just a quick time check with Samir sir. I think what we can do is I can request the audience members to reach out to any of the panelists post this session for any other queries that you have. I think everyone will be happy to answer them.
Sure. So they can reach out to the alumni session and we'll direct you to that. And also, this is a good point, Neha. I think we should also tell them that we are here to help in a bigger way, because our secretary and president are also here. And there is an idea within the alumni chapter of Delhi that any entrepreneurial activity, if there is, then we'll like to support it. It's not limited to just the IIT Kanpur batches, but also to any entrepreneur in general. So you can feel free to reach out to us. Now that brings me to the last part of the webinar. I'll request our secretary, Mr. Rohit, to please come on stage and share some words so that we can then move on and close the session.
Thanks, Samir. Thanks a lot to all our analysts, Dr. Abhishek, Nikhil, Colonel Indrajit. It has really been a wonderful session. And what I can see, the main thing is that Samir is not going to get his pizza very soon by the drones. Samir, you'll have to wait for that. From what I see, infrastructure's needs have to be taken care of. Manufacturing has to boost up. So pizza is going to be the last on the priority. So it's really been a very
wonderful session. Of course, as Sameer said, that we are ahead of the loop as far as technology here and things that are happening. We knew all this was coming. So we were very lucky to have all our three panelists available to us in this fast-moving technology area, where I'm sure they are all very busy with the opportunities that are there and the way things are moving. So a lot of thanks to our three panelists and to all of the participants who have taken time out to be here. I'm sure they would have learned a lot of what the future is. In fact, the way things have been, the way I see it, it's like the future is here now. We are the future. That's how things are going. So that's very, very encouraging, I think, in a total larger scenario. Thanks, everyone, once again. Sameer, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time for credits. Now it's very important to recognize the people who were helping behind and they were inspiring us to do this. As everybody has already spoken to and got in touch with Sneha and Rohit sir and Sunil Singhal, let me talk about the people who were not on a stage. So Mr. S.N. Jindal, Mr. Ashok Kamal, who are our senior batches from IIT Kanpur, Mr. Rajiv Saroop, Mr. Anupam Saronwala and Prakash Rastogi, who's treasurer of IIT Kanpur Delhi chapter alumni session. And of course, Jyoti. Jyoti is such a rock star. She has helped us with a lot of coordination activities, and without which we couldn't have done this. And then we have got the posters team, and we have Miss Ruchika Rathi for that. And she's part of a company called MKT Softwares Private Limited. She's head of design there. So guys, these are the excellent people who have supported us. So be with us. Let us have more of your participation. Bring your ideas. Thanks for joining today.